I think new media is actually quite pervasive. It's become very commonplace. I don't think there are many people who aren't aware of it and who don't use a new media product in some way, shape, or form. It's almost become like the air that we breathe. Everybody uses the internet. It's quite common. People use it on a daily basis to check their email, to check websites. Myself, I use it to find basic contact information. We have a database here, for example. I don't even use that database. I generally just go to a company's website. So the information that I need now is at my fingertips. And I use it also for entertainment purposes as well. So playing games, watching video online, all of those kind of things have become very common and very everyday use of technology. It's a little difficult to tell you what the future will hold with new media. The industry changes so rapidly. For example, the iPhone, which is a wonderful device, and many people are using it now, didn't exist a few months ago. And when we were developing some of our programs, we didn't even anticipate that that device would be around. Now we see all kinds of content producers that are actually interested in creating games and creating iPhone applications. We couldn't anticipate that. So it's impossible to tell you where that's going to be. Mobile technology is huge. The ability to have a media-enabled device in your pocket that you can use anywhere, anytime, is going to be a big thing in the future. I don't think that TV is going to go away. I'm a big watcher of TV. I enjoy watching TV, but I think that there are differences in the way different generations use media. I grew up as a TV watcher, so my habit when I go home is to turn the TV on and watch television. I will go online, I will look on websites, I do play games, but I gravitate to television because that's what I grew up with. Now, a lot of younger kids do different things when they come home. They may go and turn the computer on, they may turn their video game console on. So they have a different relationship with media than I did. So will it replace it? Probably not. It'll be a strong supplement, and I think there will be some users who will choose to take full advantage of some of those additional activities online, and some users who won't. I think there's a possibility for just about anything. I think we're in a time of great experimentation, and I think as a content creator, it's in a really exciting time because there's a lot of opportunity to try different things, and there's an appetite for it. I think that audiences are open and receptive to that kind of content and looking for new kinds of ways to entertain themselves. So I think it's a really exciting time, and all of that's a possibility. Mobisodes, webisodes, user-generated content, alternate reality games. In some cases, they may be very small markets, but potentially very engaged markets, and that can be very attractive to a content creator, and also very attractive to a potential advertiser who may want to use those vehicles to reach an audience to sell a product or get a message across. There are all kinds of different business models. I think that media creators need to be very open-minded. They need to be very persistent. It can be very challenging to monetize content. There's an expectation, I think, on the part of many users that the content that's available online is actually going to be available for free. And that's a challenge as a content creator, because you need to find ways to monetize your content. And you need to experiment. Advertising, pay-per-use, licensing, there are all kinds of different revenue models that you can explore. Some kinds of content have a built-in revenue model. Video games, for example, game developers have traditionally always demanded pay for their content. So that's an easier type of content to monetize. Other kinds of content can be more challenging, and you just need to be open-minded and persistent. The internet is a huge space. It's hard to attract an audience. There's no magic bullet. There's no specific advice that I could give someone. A lot of it's very product specific. I think the first thing and the most important thing is to really understand who your audience is. Sometimes it's easier when you're creating content that's targeted at a niche audience because you can very specifically go after that target market. It's not easy to attract eyeballs because there's so much content out there. It's a very, very big space, and it's a challenge, absolutely. And again, there's just no specific recommendation that I could give somebody who is trying to build an audience online. I don't think there are specific Canadian constraints. I think there are challenges because the media environment has become so global. So it's important for producers to realize that they're not just competing for audiences in Canada. They're competing with people who are creating content all over the world. I'm not sure that's a constraint, but it's a challenge that producers of interactive content face. They really need to keep that in mind, that the audience is global. It's not just a national audience anymore.
Mm-hmm. So how do you see the future of new media interactive industry in 5 years?
I think there's a lot of opportunity. Projecting out to 5 years is a real challenge. It's almost impossible to forecast. I think that it's important for content creators to be aware and to be cognizant of developments in new media. I think there will be an impact. It won't replace traditional forms of media, but I think there will be an impact that new media will have on television, on films, on books, on magazines, on music. I would recommend that they spend some time looking at comparative products, that they learn the skill sets that are necessary to create content in the online space, because the skill set and the knowledge base is actually very, very specific. And the impact is inevitable. There will be an impact. Things are becoming digital. We are seeing content migrating online. Again, not to replace traditional forms of content, but perhaps to enhance it, and it's in those content producers' best interest to make sure that they're up to speed on some of those developments. What would I recommend? That they take full advantage of the capabilities of the devices that are out there, that they are forward thinking, and that they look to the future, and that they look at new platforms and look at new opportunities. Yeah, I mean, I think the time is good. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of attention being paid to new media right now. There are growing audiences, so that means that there are growing opportunities. And anybody who's creating for interactive digital media has a bright future ahead of them. But it's important to realize that moving into interactive is not always a simple transition. There's a specific skill set and a specific knowledge base that is required. So as a traditional film and TV producer, you need to make efforts to understand that space, because it isn't always the leaders in traditional screen-based content that end up being the leaders in the interactive digital media space. There's a whole new set of contacts that need to be made. There's a different way of monetizing that content, and unless you're familiar with that, that can be hugely challenging, even if you have years of experience creating traditional television content.